You guys are the worst. You're selfish. You're soft. You're superficial. And you're the problem. These words have been the description used to describe my generation, the millennial generation. Bill McAvoy, star character from the hit show Newsroom, once responded to a millennial by saying, "But nonetheless, you are part of the worst generation ever, period." I thought to myself, but is he right? Are we the problem? Are we really the reason that America is being no longer considered as the undisputed best country in the world? I find the answer to this question is self-evident. That a generation that has not yet been able to take the reins of leadership of this country cannot possibly be blamed for years and years of poor economic policy. I remember vividly one particular night after DECA in high school, senior year, that we were talking about how we would increase our chapter, increase business literacy, increase membership. But we talked also about our own business goals, our own career goals, and what we wanted to do. I was so giddy that night that after the ride home, after I had gotten my meal, was comfortable at the dinner table, I spoke of these dreams, of these goals. In attendance was my grandfather. When I looked over him, he was laughing. I had to fight back rage at that moment. And I asked him, "Why are you laughing?" It wasn't laughter that it was funny. It was laughter out of sadness. He said to me, "Audley, you have no idea. Your generation will face worse job opportunities and have a much higher potential to have a lower income than your parents." This was not the first time I had heard a statement like this. And I know it's not the first time members of the millennial generation have heard a statement like this. But for me, this was the tipping point. This is what pushed me over the edge. It bothered me to my inner core that we as a generation are predestined for a worse life, but yet we are called the problem. I will tip my cap one thing about previous generations of America. They do have one thing right. We are crumbling. However, we are not the generation that has caused this problem, but we could be the generation to fix it. It starts by changing our current economic policy, increasing investment and saving, and decreasing consumption that only helps us in the short run. Let's build for the long-term well-being of this country. Invest in schools, invest in infrastructure that enhance economic growth, which will increase the lives of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions. Right now, the American people are facing government deficit after government deficit. Each person is personally responsible, if we were to pay all of our debts back right now, for $22,000. I don't think every member of the millennial generation is responsible for $22,000 worth of debt. We neglect focusing on the right forms of spending and the right forms of economic policy. The old saying, "Wouldn't you rather have a fishing pole than a fish?" sounds much better in theory than it does in practice. Because the American people do not want to wait and sit around with a fishing pole. They don't want to wait for the right fish. They want things to be handed to them. That's not good. This generation has the potential to change that. Personally, my sister, she wanted to drop out of school. She was settling. She said she could get a starter position, make a decent salary. My advice to her was simple. Through patience, through hard work, you will be able to accomplish more than if you just settled now. She kept the fishing pole. She didn't just take the fish. Through that, now, she's set to make 30% more once she graduates than if she had taken that position. It's so simple in hindsight. The well-being of America is much similar to this. We could all be better off. I think this generation has the chance to put America on the right track. Considering the fact that we are currently on pace to be worse off than our parents, I know we can't possibly be the worst. It takes strength, selflessness, realism to attack the problems that this country is facing. We will improve the country, and therefore, I, and the rest of us, will luckily be part of the best generation ever, period.